case that's the first time you joined us, please allow me to recommend you to check our previous discussions. You can find the link to our meetups in the chat. Our organizers will send it in a second. Or in case you're watching our YouTube edition, please find the link in the description below. So my name is Kseniya Dolia. I'm Technology Partners Community Manager at Gurtam. And today we will talk about the impact of the COVID-19 on the hardware and connectivity providers operating in telematics industry. We will discuss the challenges that they are facing, how they adapt to a new reality, and what trends they see on the telematics market. So please allow me to introduce the experts that joined us today. So please allow me to present you Tadas Kairys, Asia GPS Sales Development Executive at Teltonika.
Hello everyone. Do you hear me well?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay, thank you.
So also with us, Carlos Villanueva, Global Channel Partnerships at BICS.
Hello everyone. Nice to meet you.
Also, we have here Jerry Lee, Global Market Director at Streamax.
Hello, everyone.
And of course, we have with us Manuel Mendoza, International Sales Manager at Queclink.
Hello, everyone. Nice to be here with you.
So, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me today. And also, I would like to greet our audience, connecting from different parts of the world. So we already have 64 people connected from different countries and from different parts of the world. That's extraordinary. I see, of course, Russian Federation, our neighbors and friends. I see Middle East. I see, oh my God, so many people. Thank you so much for joining us. Please feel free to contribute to this discussion in the chat. And in case you would like your messages and your questions to be visible to everyone, please don't forget to change your settings to all panelists and attendees. So in case we will have time at the end of our conversation, of course, we will answer the most interesting questions from the chat. So now, getting back to the topic of our conversation, there is a vivid discussion out there on how the coronavirus and the restrictions, the lockdowns implemented by the government affect the local economies, and what might be the aftermath of the crisis. So in addition to the obvious health threat, we are facing the risk of the recession. So last week, the European Commission urged the member states to assure the Green Line border crossing for all cargo vehicles and indicated a fixed limit to all checks and health screening of transport workers. So it's not a surprise, as according to Eurostat's, the inland freight transported by road represent 76.7% of all goods transported inside the European Union, the EU. So the statesmen, it's obvious they are busy not only with preserving the public health, but also they are thinking about maintaining the economy. So now, more than ever, we should monitor the demand and search for any opportunities out there. And despite all the pessimism and dark predictions, here at Gurtam, we see the telematics projects moving forward. Even in Italy, the country deeply affected by the current crisis. So during our previous meetups with our partners, we asked the experts whether they saw any new opportunities out there. So that's why I also would like to ask our technology partners. So first of all, have you already felt the impact of the COVID-19 on your business? In case you did, can we talk about a general slowdown in terms of business activity, in terms of new sales? or still you see the opportunities and you see growth potential in some telematics niches or in some on some telematics markets? So maybe Tadas, would you like to be the first to contribute?
Yeah, thank you, Kseniya. Yeah, I could be the first one. Speaking about Teltonika, last 3 months were quite successful. We had a constant growth in most regions, but I believe this is because of the acceleration that we had from the last year, and this acceleration allowed us to move forward. Moreover, we noticed that some of hardware manufacturers, they are facing some production problems. I believe this also allowed us to grow, but upcoming period isn't so optimistic. Many countries in the world are under the quarantine conditions, and yeah, our clients and partners are not allowed to do any installations, and even they receive the queries from the client. And yeah, so of course sales will reduce for a coming period, and it's 100% related with the movement restrictions. And the second question, your second question was about telematic niches and specific markets or something like that. So I think all telematic niches and markets will face the reduction. As I mentioned before, the partners are facing the movement restrictions. So what about what growth we can speak? And everyone can open an interactive wialon map, and the numbers speak themselves. And but there are some specific use cases related with the coronavirus, and you mentioned Italy. So one of our company values is to help. So we helping for our partners in Spain and Italy, who are working closely with the firefighters, with the hospitals, with the police, and we are solving their support and delivery questions with the highest priority. So the thousands of the fire trucks, police cars, Red Cross ambulance in Spain and in Italy, they are now on the way to help patients and people every day. So our devices and our partner software allow them to work efficiently and manage huge fleet. And of course, there are a lot of other business use cases that I can mention. Let's say beacons and tracking devices can be used to monitor the boxes of the masks, gloves, reagents, pulmonary ventilators, which are located in the trucks. So for pharmacy companies, for the government, to be sure when the equipment will arrive, it's very important, and maybe someone wants to steal it, so they can have as an additional security tool. For the food, to monitor the temperature, for the food delivery to home, for another use case, let's say, for the security purpose, because a lot of cars, of the company cars and the personal cars, they are not used now, and for the thieves, it's a perfect time to be active. So the tracking device, easy to deploy and easy to integrate. I believe the security also can be one of the use cases. And let's say the last one that I would like to mention, and maybe it's maybe we will have even the growth coming period. It's a personal tracking. Personal trackings can be given for all the patients at the hospitals who are infected by corona, and patients can just easily push the button and get the immediate help by the doctors, or the patient is at home, so he can immediately be connected with the emergency center and it's two-way communication. So it's much easier to deploy as a wired solution, and yeah, it can help in this corona situation. So I believe that's it from my side.
Thank you so much, Tadas. Thank you for highlighting these particular use cases and niches where you find opportunities. So now I would like to pass the virtual microphone, let's say, to Jerry from Streamax. So what do you think? Do you see any positive tendencies on some markets or in telematics niches?
Yes. So because of all the quarantines and lockdowns going on, a lot of us have to rely on deliveries for their groceries and any other necessities in life. So that brings a lot of demand to companies like Amazon and all of those supermarkets delivery teams. And customers have a much high expectations for those services right now, and that will eventually generate a requirement for technology in the future. I doubt they will have the time to do any deployments for technologies right now, but I do believe after the crisis, they may consider, this very sector may consider purchasing new technologies. On a separate hand, because our specialty is in video telematics, and what we see from the market right now is the strict requirement of taking temperatures of the general public, and a solution that automatically captures the temperature for riders, for instance, in public transportations, may be very useful in the future, especially when the all health authorities will learn from this crisis and pay more attention to monitoring the health status of the general public. So that kind of a solution may get a lot of tractions after this.
Okay, Jerry, thank you so much for your opinion, for your feedback. So maybe now we will pass to the world of connectivity. Carlos, from your perspective, so first of all, yeah, have you already felt the impact of COVID-19? And of course, from your perspective, whether we can still expect some positive tendencies?
Yeah, well, yes, thanks. But actually, I would like to give first a perspective on how we see it from the carriers, the global connectivity carriers point of view. So normally, before this crisis, carriers were really experienced traffic peaks, in the evening when people were returning from, let's say, home or from school, to surf on the web, streaming video and play online games, for example. However, this has changed, with this crisis. That pattern has changed because of the lockdowns. And then as people is moving to home office policies, basically the traffic is generated home in residential lines, and broadband connectivity is much more required. So that the enterprise traffic that was previously carried over corporate networks during the workday now is being carried over the public internet. So this is a major shift that we see from the connectivity perspective. Global wholesalers like, for example, ourselves, we are also observing geographic shifts in traffic patterns. A lot of wirelines and wireless traffic has migrated from urban locations where large sections of the population were employed to the suburban and rural areas where people are living and now trying to work and keep entertained, let's say. So carriers like BICS, we are also seeing an increased number. Because of that, we are seeing an increased number of cyber attacks and fraud attempts. Although carriers, let's say, we build our backbone networks to carry such peak traffic loads, wireline and wireless access networks do not always have the capacity to handle these new traffic volumes. So this is creating an impact from the connectivity perspective due to the crisis. So if we look at specifically on IoT connectivity cases, what we see is a slowdown in terms of investment delay deployments because of the crisis, mainly because of the lack of availability of labor, right? I mean, majority of workers are locked down, are home working, they are not available today to keep going on the deployments. So the largest effect of the virus on the IoT markets will be the slowing down of the investments and delayed deployments. Why? Because companies and enterprises are trying to maintain cash reserves for the everyday operations. And this is especially true of, as I said, of labor-intense efforts, such as, for example, installing smart meterings. Those capital-intense sectors like manufacturing, where labor is heavily needed, will be also impacted and are impacted. And basically the virus is also, let's say, forcing governments, hospitals, insurance also to rethink the business as usual with regards to healthcare. This is where we see a major opportunity when it comes to remote monitoring systems. And as let's say the supply chain has been disrupted, the disruption is happening from the component manufacturer perspective, the system vendors, the system integrators, the carriers as well. So that's, let's say, from the supply side, but we also see an impact on the demand side. Why we see an impact? Basically, as people are in lockdown, many of these IoT applications or services are also, let's say, impacted. If we look at let's say the overall supply chain, the major impact is in the component manufacturers, because of course the majority of them were shifted from regions in Asia, especially China, where right now are not being deployed or manufactured. And from the demand side, the carriers like wirelines, broadband networks, and normal, let's say, mobile network operators, as I said, they are seeing an increased traffic in affected areas. So far, the networks are, generally speaking, they indicate the majority of our customers, they do not need immediate upgrades on capacity, but that doesn't mean that it will not require in the near future. And the majority of the investments that were happening on the IoT probably will shift to upgrade the capacity of the networks. When it comes to BICS specifically, as you know, we are a global international carrier. So the major impact in our side is that the roamers, tourism, travel is really going down. It's slowing because of the lockdowns and travel bans. So we see a major impact on international traffic, on mobile data and voice calls as well. In case of the opportunities linked to telematics specifically and the niche markets, what we see is 4 important use cases. One is, as Tadas mentioned, safety. The other one is supply chain, healthcare, and business continuity. From the safety perspective, we believe that right now is a good opportunity to use technology to improve safety in transportation during this disruption, but not only because of this disruption, but also going beyond. That includes not only the use of smart detection, for example, for people tracking, as Tadas also mentioned, smart safety and smart cities where really people can control food and resource supply management, which is very much important these days. From the healthcare perspective, we see, as was also mentioned, remote patient monitoring and telemedicine as 2 use cases where major investment are required, and wearables. And in the case of business continuity, I think, as I mentioned, one of the major impacts would be in those manufacturing IoT use cases. So smart manufacturing and remote equipment monitoring is a use case that would be very much, let's say, required these days and in the future, because basically it's about remote command centers, how to avoid as much as possible the interaction of workers with machines, and how to make sure that businesses can guarantee the continuity of them. This is how we see it from our side.
Thank you so much for your input and for this nice perspective that you gave us from your side. So now I'm passing the virtual microphone to Manuel from Queclink. So what's your experience with COVID right now, and what do you think about the potentials out there?
Well, for us, until late March, we didn't notice any big impacts on the business, and of course, only now, following the same trend that the other guys mentioned, the market overall is slowing down. And although it's a general trend, of course, some particular segments are being affected more. We have heard also this on the other meetups with the Gurtam partners. So especially the ones related to public transport, buses, light commercial vehicles, for example, like rental car companies or taxis are almost non-operating. So of course, some partners of us that are working on these areas are almost like not working at all. Still, we saw some other particular clients that were very active lately, which might be explained because of the segments they're working with. So as we have seen, niches like last mile delivery services, as well as heavy duty vehicle industry dedicated to necessity goods transport are more active than ever. So also the emergency response services are very active. So it doesn't necessarily mean that the companies will start immediately expanding their fleets and installing devices, but under our vision, these segments will keep growing out after all the pandemic situation is over. Right now, much more people, speaking about the regular population, most likely a lot of people between the partners participating on the panel have used much more online services or delivery services than before. So this trend will be a general thing and not only on the telematics business. On the other hand, since most places have governmental responses to the global pandemic in the way of that all non-essential workers should stay at home, installation of telematic devices, it's stuck, you know, like it's usually handled by teams of highly skilled technicians that right now cannot be out there installing the devices, especially the hardwired ones. So we see also that the self-installation solutions or very easy to install devices will play an important role, at least on the short term, to cover this gap that will be created because of the lack of installers on the field. So we see that OBD devices, or for example, battery mounted devices that can be very easily installed even by the end users, will play an important role, at least to cover the gap on the short term. Of course, passing more to the other question of if we have seen growth or very good potential, we have already seen growth on the same trend as the other guys mentioned, like the personal and portable GPS trackers. We already received several big orders of this type of products. So other companies contacted us mentioning big projects that are yet to be confirmed, but it would involve big volumes of such trackers. So we're seeing already now that these markets are going to grow. And I mean, of course, for here we see two big segments for the portable devices, which are, of course, first the personal monitoring that can be either for security personnel or lone workers, or of course for the vulnerable groups like disabled people, elder people, senior people, or people that is on the quarantine and needs to be monitored. So also the solutions can be applied for the medical staff, you know, like the different various applications that might fit the current situation and that are very much on demand right now. Particular about this, I mean, just I have some devices with me, like, you know, like some of them are more meant for asset trackers, but we have one very particular device that it's like a safety phone / tracker that it's meant for healthcare. It was originally designed for elderly people monitoring. So, you know, it's meant for as the usual like SOS button that the personal trackers have, you know, and also some speed dial buttons in case someone needs help. They can either contact the emergency services or some contacts that they have already saved on their tracker. You can put and set your zones that right now it will be very useful. Like there's a lot of people and countries are already setting measures in terms of if someone is on a mandatory quarantine, they are not meant to leave some certain area. So it will be applied on the way that if someone leaves a safety zone where they are not allowed to be, the devices can generate alerts, notify the relevant people. So of course, this type of solutions will be applied. And the second part is more related to the asset and cold chain segment, let's say, for transportation of food and other type of goods, pharmaceutical products. So we also have some devices for assets that have embedded temperature sensors, so it can be used for such applications, like I mentioned, like food or medical support, supply, transport. So all of these products are very much needed now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you so much, Manuel. So we unfortunately don't have time to go deeper into the models of devices our hardware manufacturers provide. Of course, if you're interested, please feel free to contact our speakers. They will be able to give more information. And now, like we already discussed some interesting niches. And now let's maybe tackle the changes in our everyday life, let's say. So the lockdowns and the cancellation of the offline events and expos. Because of course, as a tech company, Gurtam managed to switch to remote work quite quickly and easily, but still the cancellation of MWC Barcelona and other events, including the events that we are organizing, that's kind of hard to swallow. And from our perspective, that's a high time to invent new ways how to stay connected, how to continue to communicate with customers. And my next question is, do you plan to increase your online activities right now? And should our partners expect from you any new online content? Maybe, Manuel, you can continue and say a few words here, what Queclink is doing.
Sure. So, well, first I would like to say, so we're participating on this meetup. So the answer is yes. You know? I mean, as you all know, in our industry, it's very common to work on remote basis. So at least for the commercial side, between the communication between suppliers and partners, it's very common. So of course, we're used to work on that line. We have noticed also some increase on the field application engineer team workload, which means that some partners are very active. Other companies that were forced by the general situation to limit their operations, you know, are also performing some integration works or in-house testing. So they are very active online also. And we are preparing some more material related to specific products and some more detailed information for the companies to be aware of how they can apply these solutions to the projects they might have. So yeah, we're planning to do some more things, and of course keep participating on this type of initiatives that you're organizing. So I mean, I think that's it.
So thank you so much. Thank you so much. Maybe Carlos, you will be next. What do you think? What are your plans?
Yeah, well, I would say that after the cancellation of the MWC, we changed our perspective on how we will attend events. We'll try to attend events and collaborate with our partners and customer networks. The first thing, for example, that BICS did was create a virtual booth. It was a digital booth that was trying to, let's say, replicate the experience that we plan to offer, to expose to our customers and partners during MWC. So we launched a campaign during March where basically we're trying to push through social media the experience of sharing with us, the look and feel on that booth, and the look and feel, and also to get access to content that we plan to distribute through our social media campaigns during MWC. So that was very interesting. We got a very positive feedback. So our idea is to keep working on more digital booths because the events are canceled. So we are trying to develop our own, let's say, agenda of digital booths that we can, in collaboration with partners, to create some, let's say, insightful content that we can share through those digital booths. Of course, we are as participating in this webinar and meetups. We are also trying to attend what they call virtual discussions, where it's basically a webinar where there is a round table, and like we are having it now, with a closed audience, where there is a specific sort of experts that are joining those specific topics. We are also, let's say, boosting the fact that, let's say, the fact and the use of our shared spaces. So we have at BICS, we are planning to create shared spaces where we will, let's say, upload content for learning, sales enablement, engagement programs with our partners. So these assets are going to be there available. So because of all this content, we won't be able to distribute it on face-to-face during, I would say, the next months. That shared space is going to support our initiative. Basically during April, BICS is trying to and we'll try to release a series of articles on how, for example, our different technical capabilities and assets can help to fight COVID-19, for example. Those articles will talk about how global connectivity or cloud or global messaging, advanced analytics can help our partners, but also society, governments, to fight the virus. And also looking at beyond, because we hope, like everyone, that is going to be an afterwards the virus, and then we will have the chance to use that, let's say, that content to create a stickiness about among the network, to see how we can really put in practice those use cases and niche markets that were, let's say, discovered or explored during this crisis. And of course, we are since, I would say, since March, we are revamping our channel marketing and channel partner program, where we are trying to engage on a virtual way with our partners and create more stickiness towards the fact that we can exchange content and exchange information through shared spaces, like I mentioned. So I would say that this would summarize what we are doing currently in terms of in marketing, social media, and content.
Thank you so much, Carlos. So please allow me to pass the virtual microphone, let's say, to Jerry from Streamax. So maybe you can share what are your plans right now?
Oh, yes, thank you. We definitely do a lot more online activities since the lockdown. So we have been doing a virtual roadshow with all of our partners. So doing our annual product releases one by one. So far, the feedback has been very good, and once they see the product, they can still order online, and they can still start testing. And our technical support team definitely see same or even a little bit more traffic going on around the world, because I think everybody is utilizing the downtime to redefining their solutions and looking for new products and services that they can distribute once this is finished. We are also taking the time to redefine, to refine our sales and marketing materials and all of the online contents that we currently have. They have been a little bit dated. And since now there's nothing else we can do, there's no traveling going on, so we're taking time to to come up with better content to support our partners when they need to show the products remotely as well. So we're doing some product videos, introductions, all of those, and video user manuals to help our partners do their job a little bit easier when we can't go to the site. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you for the information you provided. So please, Tadas, it's your turn. Please let us know what Teltonika is cooking for us, maybe.
Teltonika cooking. I will be very specific. There is only way how we can communicate with the clients, and we believe this is the best way and the moment, and we to develop for the clients new solutions. And while we can't do any integrations, they can sharpen their knives and then come back with a bigger power and bigger energy to the market. And then will be very interesting. I don't know about after 3-6 months when this crisis will be over. From Teltonika side, we are very active with remote sessions with the clients, supporting them to integrate the device, offering introducing new features, new solutions, etc. And it's very good moment to know each other even better that we know before. Now we just we are quite active in Facebook, in LinkedIn, in YouTube. We just shared some information, some topics about the easy installation GPS trackers, helping to maximize the delivery service, company efficiency. Then some good news for Web Tahoe users for extra 1 month for free. Telecare solution that helps to take care of the family members and friends in need. For the YouTube audience, we launched jamming detection scenario about Bluetooth. Next month, we are planning new webinars also. One of webinars this month, 2 webinars about vehicle telematic use cases in the event of the COVID-19 outbreak, and another one about speed limiter, a new device, MSP 500. And on the May, we are planning, we have a plan with the Gurtam, the webinar, the most popular solutions of Teltonika. So it will be quite interesting. So also the webinars about easy plug and play devices, about professional devices. And let's say this is the only way how we can reach the client. So we must be active and to provide them professional content. And I would like to encourage all the telematic community to subscribe our newsletter and get the latest updates from Teltonika, and to be always up to date what we are doing, what we are planning in the future, etc. So that's it from my side.
Thank you so much, Tadas. So I heard a little spoiler about the webinars that Gurtam is planning to have with other manufacturers.
Yeah.
So basically that was one of the things that I wanted to say from my side. So what Gurtam is planning to do. From our side, of course, dear guests, you will see a lot of meetups, a lot of webinars and online workshops, and we will invite you to participate, of course, via our blog. And additionally, we think that it's high time to get your wialon certificate. So I suggest partners to encourage their technical teams to learn more about wialon functionality and pass certification tests, and of course receive a detailed feedback from our consulting department. So maybe an engineer, he can't go in the fields, but still he can go online. So during the lockdown period, we decided to abolish all extra costs for certification tests. So more information will be available on a blog on Monday. So please stay tuned. And meantime, as far as I can see, our audience is growing. So we already reached 87 people connected. So welcome everyone. So in case you just joined us, we are speaking today about the effect of the COVID-19 on hardware manufacturers and connectivity providers. And of course, we discuss what they are doing, how they are adapting. So yeah, nice to see you all from different countries, really an international workshop. It's incredible to see. Please feel free to contribute to our discussion in the comments in the chat section. So how other participants are already doing, thank you. In case you would like your questions to be visible to everyone, please don't forget to change your settings. Please set your settings to all panelists and attendees. So this way everyone will see your questions. So in case we will have some extra time at the very end, we of course will take the most interesting questions from the chat. So now let's continue our conversation. So my next question is specifically for hardware manufacturers participating here with us today. So taking into account all the lockdowns, all the isolation measures that the governments are taking, do you see any risks, any potential risks of the disruption of your supply chains? So here I mean in terms of spare parts or in terms of delivery to your customers, to our common customers. So if yes, if you suggest that there are any risks out there, so what are the measures that you implement to mitigate those risks? So, and maybe Jerry, you can contribute first, answer first to this question.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, during this time, we do see the cost of parts fluctuating up and down quite a bit, even to the most fundamental resistors and capacitors. Our mitigation techniques is to build a larger inventory to basically make sure that we have enough of those raw materials for the production in the near future. And we do notice a big change in the shipping methods that we normally use. We see a big reduction in vessels and flights. So it's much harder to get air freight of anything at this point. What we are seeing right now from the shipping company is they are limiting all shippings to small packages. I think it's less than 300 kilograms per package. So for larger shipments, it's gonna be a little bit harder to arrange during this time. And we do expect an increase in the shipping cost. But overall, we are still able to ship the products to our partners via, I would say, the small package delivery. So we should maybe focus on a more frequent order and less on the quantity to deal with the current issue. But we don't see any risk on stopping the whole production or stopping any deliveries. Thank you. You're muted.
Do you hear me? I'm sorry. So yeah, maybe let's pass to Manuel.
Okay, so regarding this point, I mean, the risk of disruption on the supply chain naturally is there at some level. As you might be aware, right now the situation in China is quite stable and controlled. Right now, Europe and more recently the US are taking the worst part of the pandemic outbreak. But for us, the most, let's say, uncertain moment was on early February, just after the Chinese New Year, when, you know, it coincided with the normal holiday break with the Chinese New Year when everything started. So, of course, like the production from all companies was delayed a little bit, and it was extended from that point. So there were a few weeks that were a bit unclear. You know, because same as in Europe now, the advice of the government was that companies would operate with less people. So of course, everything got a bit slower. After that, our suppliers and partners have given us top priority. We're actually very thankful to them. When they back to operations on mid-February and until now, we're operating pretty much as usual. I mean, we have full cooperative plans with them to ensure a smooth supply chain. And of course, despite the challenging business uncertainties, we're working very much as normal. We're actually now also even deploying more resources to support our vendors and suppliers by providing better conditions, or I don't know, things like paying everything up front to support them, because of course for them it's also a hard period. So to ensure that they can keep operating and we can keep operating and the partners can receive the devices when they need them, we're also providing better conditions to our vendors and all us absorbing a bit more the financial side. Even from before, let's say since January, prior to the Chinese New Year, we kept a reasonable level of components and finished product inventory. So, I mean, we believe right now we're well positioned to support the partners and customers without any major changes.
So thank you so much, Manuel. So maybe Tadas, you can say a few words how the situation is from your perspective.
Yeah, I can share. So let's say the risk, how we see the risk, we can divide in two parts. The risk that we can control and the risk that we can't control. The controlled part is the spare part delivery and communication with our spare part partners and component manufacturers, etc. We are quite important, I believe, clients for them, and they are important for us. And we keep the strong contact, relation with them, and we're always in the communication. Another part that we can't control probably is related with the delivery. Let's say the Philippines, they closed their market, they closed the customs, they closed even the payments. So it depends. From Teltonika can produce. We are not facing problems in this area, in spare part area, but in some cases, for the specific markets, of course, we are facing problems, but I believe all of hardware manufacturers are in the same situation. So this is my opinion.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for sharing your opinions here. Of course, all the manufacturers are on the same page when we're talking about like general lockdowns. That's completely, we all understand that. And it's encouraging for us and for our common customers to see that you think about the risks in advance and you search for the ways how to mitigate them, of course. So now I would like to move from hardware to connectivity perspective. According to one of the research that are out there in the internet, so according to Open Signal research, the lockdown in Italy provoked the growth of the consumption of the traffic from the households. So people are staying at home and they search what to do with their free time. And of course, they use their home connectivity for their professional needs. So, and we at Gurtam also, we received quite similar testimonials from our partners, for example, from the Latin America region. So, and the question is whether this increased consumption of the traffic will provoke any service interruptions or whether we can expect any problems with the connection. So Carlos, maybe you can tell us from your perspective, is there any risks of the problems with the connection in IoT sector in particular?
Yeah, sure. Well, I must say that generally speaking, we see that the impact is it will be minimal, because of what I said previously, that the networks today are well dimensioned. But this is today. We don't know. It depends on how much time it will take the crisis. And it also, it will depend on the resources that operators will have to invest on network upgrades. And of course, it's labor, it's available. I mean, if workers are available to do the upgrades, because if that's another, if the lockdown continues, then of course they won't be available to keep upgrading the networks and maintain the same level of service. But right now, the telecom operators are really playing a critical role in supporting society during this crisis. I mean, overall, we see examples where the traffic has increased 50%, for example, in some countries that are affected. So you mentioned the Italian example, so let me then mention the Spanish example. So from the Spanish example, we see, for example, that nearly 40% of the mobile traffic has increased, and about 50% in voice traffic is also showing an increase. 20% in data, which means that really there is a huge consumption happening right now. I mean, if you look at how Skype, WebEx, Zoom traffic is, how it has increased. I mean, according to our figures, it has almost quadrupled the amount of data that is being used. And if I might say, the recent, let's say, statement from the Spanish operators, it was in the sense of telling people to be, I mean, rational in the ways they were using the internet, and recommending even to use entertainment services during off-peak hours, and limit the use of non-essential features such as video and during phone calls, just to prevent any potential risk on service outages, let's say. But of course, the Spanish operators are also saying that they will increase the capacity and redundancy, but this is not going to happen tomorrow. This is going to take time, right? So from that perspective, there are risks, of course. So the net-to-net, this crisis of the COVID-19 it's a net positive impact on the demand side, of course, because it's booming, it's increasing. But demand and supply, it might not be the same. So from the supply side, we see risk. No? What would be those risks? The availability of the components sourced and manufactured in impacted areas. No, we mentioned this at the beginning. The ability of the equipment manufacturers to build equipment because of lack of labor available in their countries. Looking back at, there is another risk, which is logistics and transport to get those, for example, equipments to customer locations. The ability of field technicians to do the upgrades and implementations, the delays of this product development as well. So there are five, let's say, major risks that we see there in case this crisis keeps on going. Overall, from the BICS perspective, what we did, let's say, to mitigate this risk was to launch a business continuity plan. No? So this business continuity plan, basically, it's trying to anticipate major operational disruptions. No, the majority of our operations today are happening remotely. So we do the remote provisioning of our connectivity or of IoT connectivity remotely, so that we don't see an impact. We don't see an impact in the case of the network coverage and operations. So we see that the coverage is there, and the availability of the coverage is also there. So from that perspective, we also don't see a risk. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this webinar, major network operators are suffering of cyber attacks. In that case, we also see that potentially, depending of the country and on the security policies of the operators, that could be an extra risk that operations could suffer. Overall, what I mean, I would say our recommendation, to mitigate these different risks will be to use automation and provisioning and management as much as we can. That's very, very important, to automate provisioning and network management. To really try to allow them to perform vital deployment and management functions with as little human intervention as possible, of course. We also believe that flexibility is crucial here to really assess the current and future needs of our products, of our networks, to really do the right adjustments according to how this crisis will be evolving and future unexpected situations. And also another, let's say, action could be established a specific resilience program, like I was explaining what we did in BICS, which was a business continuity program, which is very important to make the workforce very flexible, to allow the employees and partners to really limit the business disruption. Build these really infrastructure response plans, which means that really how do we make sure that our infrastructure can be upgraded and can respond to different traffic demands, and virtualize as much as possible, to really support scalable operations, scalable architectures that can allow us, depending on how the crisis evolves, to adjust our service offerings. So overall, I will say that that's what that will be our perspective.
Thank you so much, Carlos. So Tadas, maybe you can share your opinion, because I know that you have one, quite an interesting, so maybe share with everyone.
Yeah, the expert in this question is Carlos, but the most our devices, let's say in Europe, they are running on 2G network. So while the home users are surfing on 4G, they have fiber cables, blah, blah, blah. And so currently we are not facing any issues regarding this. And I believe in most of the world countries, 2G, 3G networks for the GPS trackers are used, and 4G just in a couple of countries. One question to Carlos. So from my point of view, so 2G has a different bands and different, let's say, different bands and different connectivity technology, while 4G is also totally different technology. So I believe there won't be any disruptions between those two networks. So can you, Carlos, can you confirm?
Yeah, I think so. Yes, it's accurate what you're saying. The only thing on the 2G, 3G is that depending on the countries, you know that many operators are decommissioning the 2G, 3G networks nowadays, and they are really investing on 4G and narrowband IoT, LTE-M, and soon 5G. So it will depend on the country. So few operators already will say the 2G and 3G network is not available anymore. So they will force devices to move to 4G. But that, I would say that can be solved as long as there is flexibility and there is no lock-in from the connectivity provider. What I mean with that, and normally, depending on the agreement that you might have with the connectivity provider, they will allow you or not to use 2 or 3 networks in the different countries, because sometimes you are tied to a contract with a connectivity provider, and they're always trying to offer you, I would say, where they have the best margin, or the best relationship, or because they are having a specific, because they have their own net coverage. When that happens, it's more difficult. But normally, in the ideal world, the best is to have the flexibility to have no lock-in to a specific network. So if the device is not is not registered, let's say, under a 2G, 3G network, that can switch to a 4G. If the technology is available, of course. If the device can only, let's say, register to a 2G, 3G network, then it might be an issue if in that country the network has been decommissioned. Did I answer your question, or?
Yeah, you answered in the beginning.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
So thank you so much, gentlemen, for your contribution and even extra questions. So it's great that we have a real vivid discussion. So basically, we have only one question left. At least I have one question left. So my last question is related to the ways we all could support our partners and their anti-coronavirus projects, and so how we could contribute to the cause, let's say. I would like to ask you, do you plan to implement any anti-crisis program for partners, or do you plan to launch some charity activities, or in any other way contribute to the fight against the coronavirus? So, and maybe Carlos, you could be the first to contribute and maybe say a few words about BICS, their position.
Yeah, sure. As I explained, what we are trying to do here from our perspective is to really look at how our technology can support, or we're supporting the fight against the COVID-19. So we are, let's say, developing different use cases where we would like to tell the community how they can use technology to prevent the different risks. Aside from that, we are planning to, let's say, to release per service, according to the different, let's say, products that are in those services, a specific support package, let's say. Just to give you an example, in the case of the IoT connectivity, as we know that right now there are different projects there that are really working on how to create, let's say, to launch devices or create solutions for different use cases. So we are supporting developers with limited free global IoT connectivity. So let's say we will offer them a few SIMs, including data and the setup there, so they can really use them to make sure that this device or use case is launched to market. We are also trying to offer starter packages, let's say. This starter packages is really looking at the use cases that we already mentioned in the previous, let's say, question, where the aim there is to support startups that are really developing, let's say, global use cases. So we were really aiming to integrate our connectivity there. We're offering them discounted specific prices and packages on the SIMs, the amount of data per month, and the setup that is included. So aside from that, we have something that we call the IoT Safe. So the IoT Safe is basically an applet that is included in our SIM cards. So that applet, we aim to secure the, let's say, the devices against the current cyber attacks that are happening in, the different communication networks, and also to get access to our advanced analytics, where they can really monitor where the devices are, if there are disruptions on supply chain, the consumption of those devices, which specific locations they are, to provide, for example, access to geofencing, which means that those devices, of course, will be, let's say, moving across specific locations. We are thinking also to give them access to this technical capability in our signaling and advanced analytics, so they can get access to that. So these are just a few examples. We are going to release, as I said, in April, the full, let's say, documentation on how we are supporting the fight against COVID and how our partners can, let's say, benefit of these either packages, discounted prices, technology, or the marketing assets.
Thank you so much, Carlos.
Yeah.
So maybe Jerry, you would like to be next. So please let us know what initiatives you are working on right now. Yes.
So in the technology standpoint, we're actively developing our temperature monitoring system. So that can, once that's out, all of the partners will have access to that to this solution, and they can roll it out to the local market to help contain the virus and any future similar events. Regarding to charitable initiative, we have been helping our fleet operators, especially for public transportation fleets, like the ones in Italy. We have been donating personal protective gear such as face mask, gloves, all of that to those fleet operators, and they have been received and they have been put into use. And we also giving our partners that still trying to work in the office with connections to other medical supply manufacturers in China to help them source the protective gears that they need. So that is some of the actions that we have taken to help the telematic community to stay strong in this global crisis. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jerry. So Tadas, maybe right now you can say a few words about Teltonika, whether you're involved in some charity activities or projects, or if there anything you can say.
Yeah, so first of all, speaking about our partners, we already extended the WebTahoe licenses for all our clients for one month free of charge. Now we're thinking about additional initiatives, let's say, as extended warranty, because the clients, they receive the goods, but they are not allowed to install. So we will we're thinking to extend the warranty in this case. Another thing is speaking about the local and the global, some questions. Teltonika, we are a socially responsible company, and we donated 150,000 euros for the local municipalities. We bought thousands of masks, and yeah, this is for local. And for the global, we just started, just 2 weeks ago, we started to develop pulmonary ventilators. And currently, we are ordering the components for the prototypes. We created the engineers, programmers, managers team who are now working, as I mentioned, for 2 weeks. And I was really impressed that the companies, worldwide companies from USA, from USA to China, they joined our initiative. Not only companies, but professionals, medicals, etc. They joined our initiative, and we managed to have to gather a lot of information about that, and we expect to start the mass production on May. The expectations are quite high, but I believe we will do that. We will manage to do that. Ford and Tesla announced that they were planning to start production of pulmonary ventilators. We were already 2 days working on that. So I believe we will help to fight against the coronavirus globally, and this equipment won't be only for the local purpose.
So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tadas. So Manuel, maybe you can say a few words about Queclink. So what initiatives you're working on right now?
Right now, internally, let's say on a global level, we're speaking about like what we will do. Before when the situation was only in China, there was not much need for the private companies to participate on like the activities that the government in China takes totally care of. Like they build hospitals on a very short time, like this type of thing. So most companies need to take care of their own employees, their vendors, and like take care of the internal life of the company. Of course, now that the global scenario is changing a bit, we're also discussing like how we will help the international partners and also people in the other countries. You know? On the short term already, as we spoke with people from Gurtam, we're joining the COVID-19 rescue campaign that is being launched through flespi. So they're like synergizing regarding projects that are related to the topic. So of course, if companies have some particular projects where they see we can be helpful, of course they should feel free to contact us hand to hand together with flespi and with Gurtam. So I would say like this type of collaboration, it's the most concrete that we have right now. But of course, as soon as we have some other initiatives, we will share them with the partners. And of course, if we can support them in any other way, like we will do it.
Thank you so much, Manuel, and thank you everyone for sharing with me, with our audience, with the community, the initiatives that you're involved in, and how you contribute to the fight against the pandemic. Yeah, thank you for mentioning the COVID-19 IoT Alliance. There, I will say a few words at the very end of our conversation. So maybe we can have one question from the chat. So maybe we have spare minutes. So the question from the chat is, on your opinion, when global telematics market will return its positions for at least the before crisis level? So maybe Carlos, you can express what you're thinking about.
So in the sense of the after crisis, for the after crisis, as I was explaining, we believe that this is really the moment to identify how technology can be used to fight what we have today, we're facing today, but also looking at the beyond, right? So the beyond should also really I would say should also give us the opportunity to use what has been created today to prevent if this pandemic will come back again. I would say yesterday I was reading about how, for example, future technologies like 5G could have helped now for the let's say to prevent the infection, the contagion among all these the hospital, the nurses, the doctors that are working there. How, for example, technology could have detected people that was already infected. How geofencing could have prevented, like the amount of contagions across the cities. How video surveillance in some countries could have also detected how the virus was, let's say, increasing across the city. And in the other sense, in the sense of the supply and the supply chain, the technology should help us to bring safety to, for example, drivers, but also should also give us more of an idea of what's happening in the supply chains, food management, resources availability, to understand how governments will have the right information on time, etc. So all these, let's say, different use cases that are right now like under investigation because of the crisis should really help us to prevent future crises, not only from the health and let's say illness perspective, but also how that can be used to improve today's operations on the supply chain, on fleet management, on logistics, on how networks should be planned, how connectivity and remote monitoring should help to accelerate the deployment of technology, etc. So there are many, I would say, takeaways out of this crisis, from the positive and from the negative, of course. But from the positive aspects, we really believe that if we, let's say, as much as we can take the technology to, let's say, support niches and use cases that today are struggling to find, let's say, a solution, we can for sure prevent in the near future that this happen again, and how we should react against this crisis. From the connectivity perspective, we really believe that let's say the flexibility, automation, business continuity, the use of and the support of a streamlined supply chain can really bring us benefits beyond this crisis.
Mm-hmm. So in case I understand you correctly, so from your perspective, there is no definite timeline, no definite time period when the market will recover. From your perspective, there will be opportunities and you don't expect any slowdown in recovery. So just. For
example, I do expect a slowdown on the deployment. Right now, many deployments where I was saying where workers are needed and labor is needed will slow down. For example, in the case of 5G, it's going to be postponed. No, this year is not going to happen. Deployment for my majority of the countries, it will come until 2021. That's in the case of in 5G. In the case of the overall IoT use cases, yes, though there are a group of them will keep on going, where remote provisioning, remote maintenance, remote management is possible. But the others where the investment and huge investment is required will slow down. As I said, why? Because right now, let's say service providers, operators, they don't know if they will have enough cash to maintain the networks today and to pay, let's say, the daily operations of their business. So they will be, for sure, will be postponed by end of this year, beginning of next year, depending on how long this crisis will last.
Okay. So thank you so much, Carlos. Maybe Tadas, you can share your projections when we could expect the market to recover.
Everything depends on each country, different market, different country, different restrictions, and etc. So each country, they want to recover the economy as fast as possible. And let's say if in Asia, the Indonesia will facing now problems, China already solved. So we can't speak about that globally. We have to speak about country by country. And while we have those restrictions, so the economy will be slowed down. And when the vaccine maybe will appear, or when we will get used to live with Corona next to us, then we can maybe expect that the economy will grow, but I'm not an economist to tell you when the economy come back to the real, the same level as we have now, as we had, let's say, a couple of months ago.
Thank you so much, Tadas. So maybe Manuel, you can share what you think about this. Do you see any timelines here?
You know, actually, very much in line to what Tadas is mentioning. Of course, I think if we tell that it's going to be in a few months, we would be much more wishful thinking than something based on real data. You know, I think it's going to be much more related to the overall situation of the policies on each country, the situation on the economy on each region. So I don't know, I would give you the example of China, that at this precise moment it's going back much more to normal in terms of their operations. Like the quarantines are being like over in a lot of cities. So I don't know, like I don't think on a personal level that, for example, in Europe or now in the US, in 1 month and a half, everything will be over, you know, like in a lot of places it's just going up. I think at some point when the restrictions are less strict, our partners and the companies will be able to go back to the field again and perform much more installations and at least operate closer to the regular level. So yeah, I don't know, I think we will see how it develops until summer, but maybe on the second half of the year, things will start going back to normal, apart from, you know, like that situation. If certain niches start growing, maybe companies will also start adjusting their operations to those needs.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Manuel.
You're welcome.
So, Jerry, what do you think? Do you see any timelines here?
Yeah, I think this will definitely vary from country to country. So based on you know, our experience, this the economy will start to come back once we hit the peak point for the outbreak. So I think it took somewhere around 1.5 months for China to recover to, I think, 70% capacity. So I think that will be similar to other countries in the world, and we have to pay closer attention to which country will hit the peak first during their own outbreaks. Another thing to pay attention to will be whether there's any stimulus package on the overall infrastructure to boost the economy, because in China there's going to be a huge stimulus package coming out to boost the development of the new infrastructures, what we call 5G, IoTs, connected cities, smart cities, all of those initiatives. I think that may also happen on other places in the world. So our community should benefit from those kind of initiatives, and we should pay close attention to those kind of policies and observe whether that's going to become a trend in the market.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Jerry. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for answering this tricky question, I would say. Also, just to clarify, there's a question in the chat regarding certification. The certification test will be free of charge during all the pandemic period. So we will have more information about this on Monday. So please follow our blog and you will see all the details. So yeah, during our previous meetups, we announced different measures Gurtam implements in order to support wialon community. So we already talked about the possibility to archive the unused units. We talked about the interactive map our colleagues from flespi created in order to monitor the overage mileage in different countries. And of course, we announced that our flespi department is ready to work for free for anti-COVID-19 projects. And our flespi team is ready to provide commercial flespi accounts free of charge for a similar cause. So now Gurtam would like to make maybe another step forward. So we would like to invite our technology partners, so hardware manufacturers, connectivity providers, to unite with us and invest the time and resources in the project that might help to fight the pandemic and of course save people's lives. So the COVID-19 IoT Alliance, started by Gurtam's flespi team, is a group of companies that are ready to provide their services in order to create the monitoring solutions for healthcare, social distancing control, personal safety, public transportation, etc., etc. So, do you have an idea how telematics could help to protect people, or maybe you are ready to work on the software development to provide devices or connectivity for the calls? So, in that case, please don't stay silent. So join your forces with other telematics professionals like Queclink, flespi, and others. They already did it. So if you want to know more, please visit the COVID-19 IoT Alliance page. So the link should be already in the chat, or just contact our colleagues from flespi by email, so you also should see it in the chat. So the world is having difficult times right now, so we are very much focused on taking care of our businesses, of our loved ones, and of course of ourselves. So, and that's the right approach. We should mitigate our risks, and we should act right now to preserve ourselves, our well-being, our businesses. And meantime, we should not forget that we are not alone here. So we are all together in this situation. So there's not a single person, country, or company that might fight the pandemic alone. And each and every of us can contribute to the common fight, like our panelists are doing via the activities that they announced today. And in case everyone contributes, we might see the light faster than one might expect. So, gentlemen, Tadas, Carlos, Jerry, Manuel, thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you for sharing your expertise and also inspiring us by speaking about your initiatives. So, dear guests, thank you so much for joining. Please feel free to continue the discussion that you started in the chat, forward in the partner chats at the forum of Gurtam. So, and also follow our meetups. The calendar is available in our blog. We will announce all our upcoming events. So stay tuned, and of course, stay safe. So see you soon.
Yeah, thank you, and have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.